to increase engagement online. With Miguel Neves, Xiaoyan Chu, Pierre Metralier, and Tim Groot. Miguel is passionate about helping event professionals working online and offline to develop digital communication and content strategies. He is no stranger to the world of business events, and he speaks, consults, and trains on topics around communication, content, and event technology. Since 2005, Miguel has held multiple industry roles, starting in his native Portugal, then spending 10 years in the UK and US, and currently based in Denmark. He played a key role in developing the IMEX Group's digital content and social media presence from 2011 to 2017. And since then, Miguel has worked independently on digital communication strategies for business events-focused organizations. Miguel holds a master's degree in conference and events management from the University of Westminster and is certified as a Certified Meeting Professional, CMP, and a Digital Event Strategist, DES. He sits on the International Board of Directors of Meeting Professionals International and is a past chair of Events Industry Council's Industry Insights Committee. Xiaoyan Chu is the founder and CEO of Run the World, the leading online events platform for communities to interact with each other. Run the World raised $15 million from leading investors such as Andreessen Horowitz, Founders Fund, Will Smith, and Kevin Hart. She previously led projects for both Facebook and Instagram. She dropped out of Stanford's MBA program after a year to start Run the World. Pierre Metralier is the CEO of SpotMe, an event technology solution based in Lausanne, Switzerland. Metralier joined SpotMe in 2001 and became the CEO in 2016. In 2004, after leaving a research position on distributed algorithms at NTT Japan, he returned to SpotMe and led the pivot from proprietary hardware to SaaS. Metralier holds an MSc in Communication Systems from the Swiss Federal Institute of Technology and is also a graduate of INSEAD. Metralier now leads a team of 120 employees worldwide. With the increased digitalization of event worldwide, SpotMe's mission has become virtual events with more show-ups and fewer drop-offs. Tim is CEO and co-founder at Grip, the leading AI-powered event networking solution for virtual, hybrid, and live events. The Grip platform is used by leading conference, trade show, and corporate event organizers, such as Informa, Reed Exhibitions, and Hive, to create unique and memorable events that bring communities together through content and connections.
Hello, everyone. My name is Miguel Neves, as you heard in the introduction, and I'm joined by the amazing Xiaoyan, Tim from Grip, Xiaoyan from Run the World, and Pierre from SpotMe. Thank you so much for joining me today. And we're here to talk about how to increase engagement online. And just to give you some context, this session was created because event organizers want to know how they can increase engagement online. A lot have participated in virtual events or organized virtual events, and their feedback is, in general, that virtual events have a poor engagement and poor attention. So I can't think of three better people to discuss this topic with, and I'm going to pick on them a little bit because I scoured their websites and their products and found where it mentioned engagement, and I'd like to kind of tease them a little bit and ask them, what they really understand by engagement. And so let's define engagement. I'm going to start with Xiaoyan. On your website, you say, our engagement and social features make your event not a one-way live stream, but intimate experiences that people are willing to pay for. That sounds great. So, Xiaoyan, in your understanding, what do you understand by engagement online, and why do we want to increase it?
Well, I used to work at Facebook and Instagram. So at that time, the way the Facebook and Instagram define engagement are basically there's three metrics. One is how much time people are spending. The second is what are the downstream reactions they are taking. And the third is that are they making new connections? That's kind of how Facebook and Instagram define engagement. I think obviously for events, we have one more thing that's really important, that everybody is actually at the same time, here at the same time, whereas Facebook and Instagram, they're more asynchronous. So I think in addition to time spent and the number of reactions, the most important thing is you literally have all of those people at the same time with you. So how much interactions are you having with other people? The interaction can be, I'm poking that person, just saying hi. It could be I'm suggesting a meeting with that person. It could be I'm hopping on a very quick conversation just to test the water to see if we want to chat more. I think we really need to understand the weight of each of those interactions with other people. So the way that we define interaction is really on how many interactions, how many initiatives are you taking with other people, and does the other person respond to you? So those are kind of the two elements that we think is hugely important.
Perfect. I really appreciate you jumping in. Pierre, same question to you. I found this sentence on your website. A truly engaged audience is key for any successful event. Why is that?
Well, it's very simple. Engaged employees produce more and stay longer with their employers, and engaged customers buy more and stay longer with the brands. So whether you're doing events for your own teams, whether you're doing events for your prospects or customers, that's probably the number one metric. Marketers have known this for years. And I think event planners and virtual event planners are more and more marketers. And this is why they're thinking about engagement.
Okay, thank you. And Tim, last but definitely not least, from your website, I got replace business cards with a comprehensive engagement and networking solution. I guess this is a kind of product description for Grip, but same question to you. How would you define engagement and why is that so important?
Yeah, I think like similar to what was said before is that I think really the key thing is what the engagement results in, right? So for us, that is really about the networking element and the connecting of people and making sure that that's really the metric what you're focusing on. And so you're looking at number of connections per event participant, for example, and then you're looking at, okay, if that's your goal, how you get there is through engagement, right? So you need people to be engaged in order to kind of achieve that underlying metric. So I think engagement itself is something that you need in order to then have actually the ultimate goal that you're looking to achieve with your virtual event. So I think you need to first establish the kind of larger goal that you have. Pierre mentioned some, and Xiaojin also mentioned some. And then from there, you can see, okay, what is actually the engagement metric that I'm optimizing for? That's really the way that we approach it. And all the clients that we have are very much focused on, lead gen for exhibitors and really engagement around content to drive inspiration for the market that they're serving. So yeah, I think that's really what we're focused on.
Fascinating. And what about, we talk a lot about engagement. We also talk about interaction. Are they the same thing, or are we talking about different things here? Because sometimes we kind of use those terms interchangeably, but I think that they might be different. I don't know. Xiaoyin, any thoughts on that?
Well, I think engagement at the end of the day means the person is focused on your thing. Or I can't tell you how many times people are telling me that they're multitasking at a Zoom event. Then they're not really engaged. There's no business outcome you can get from somebody who's not really giving you the attention. I think interaction is something probably I would regard as more like a subset, but that's the most important part of engagement. Engagement could mean right now I'm very focused watching your content because your content is so interesting, but I'm not interacting with anybody. I'm not showing any of my emotions. I'm just really consumed on your content, which is good, but it doesn't necessarily drive business outcome. And interaction kind of means in addition to, in order to interact, I have to pay attention to what I'm doing right now. But in addition to that, I'm taking some actions. I'm testing the water a little bit of interacting with people, or meeting people, or talk to people. So I would regard that's a better version, a more proactive version of high focus consumption. Okay.
Well, I'd like to ask Pierre the same question, but I'm just kind of thinking also, if you're watching a TED Talk, for example, the kind of staple example, I could be extremely engaged watching that content, but not necessarily interacting with any of it. I'm just sort of consuming it in a way. So does there have to be interaction to be engagement?
Well, I have some thoughts real quick. Sorry.
Jump in.
So the TED Talks, you can be highly engaged asynchronously, but the point of an event is that everybody is here at the same time. That's why you're paying thousands of dollars back then to fly to a physical location, because you want to meet people right then and there at the same time. So I think there needs to be the added component, because you could have watched TED Talk anytime. You don't need to pay thousands of dollars. You don't need a venue. So I think there is a higher bar when it comes to events.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I actually disagree, because I'm having a hard time understanding how you could be engaged and doing nothing. I mean, if you watch something and it's highly interesting, if it's, something that you want to react, that you're inspired, I actually think it's a good thing that you open a second browser window and actually start Googling about it. That might be seen as a distraction, but that's like the best form of engagement. And I actually think we're not doing that, but I actually think one of the great things you could do as a virtual platform is actually allow some sort of controlled distractions of that sort, if you like. We've been running live events for many years, in-person events for many years, and I've always had those fights with event planners who were telling us, oh, that talk is going to be so engaging, we're not going to be doing polling and Q&A, which is like the traditional form. And I'm like, is that a joke? How could you, if it's so good, are just people going to sit and just watch and like download that? I don't take this as engagement. I think that you described it as consumption, and I think that's what it is. And this is where maybe interactions and reactions comes in. This is how we make the distinction. If I can clap or if I can like, that's a reaction. That's just a one-way, one-shot, like little thingy that shows that, hey, I'm here. And then, the higher level will be like posting a question, perhaps, or we'll be talking to a chatbot for a little survey, or, filling a lead form, or even connecting with somebody. But again, I don't accept hearing when people say the audience was super engaged just because they sat and watched it. I just don't think it's true.
Okay, Tim, thoughts on this?
I think well, first of all, I'm not sure if it needs to happen simultaneously, right? Like somebody could be watching this right now and come back 10 minutes later, or start doing something else afterwards, right? Like engage with an exhibitor or engage with other attendees or speed networking, whatever you do. Like it could be different experiences in different moment in time. Like not everything has to happen simultaneously. I think Pierre is right. Like things like the X-ray feature on Amazon Video is pretty cool, and there are so many kind of second screen experiences. Like we provide mobile apps as well for in-person events, and happens all the time that people are in a session and they're also looking at, for example, some networking profiles of who they could be meeting after the session, right? So are you then less engaged with the content, or it's just like it's an omni-channel experience. You're doing multiple things. Like I'm always on my phone when I'm watching Netflix at home, right? So but it's kind of this combination of experiences that you're creating. And I don't think as an organizer you need to necessarily be kind of worried about that. I do think that I agree with Jayin in the sense that the benefit of organizing an event is that people are online simultaneously. So therefore, you need to take advantage of that, because otherwise, it's just like watching Netflix. So you need to separate it from that. And the word event says it, right? It means a moment in time when something is happening. So that's absolutely critical. And therefore, you need to build in interaction. So whether it happens simultaneously after it or on a second screen experience, interaction is critical as part of a virtual event experience.
Okay. I think that those are great topics of conversation. And just to remind, we are trying to make this session as interactive as possible. So there is a question function.
As engaged as possible.
Yes, or that. Well, both, hopefully, right? But we'd love to get some questions from the audience as well. I could talk, all day with these three amazing people, but I'd love to get your questions to make sure that we're providing value to you.
This session is called
how to increase
engagement
online.
Is engagement the right metric?
And is engagement the right metric
the kind of objectives of the event?
Maybe start with you, Tim, because I think you brought this up.
How many recommendations we had? Somebody might swipe 500 recommendations. We were like, 500 success. This user is so engaged. But it could be that they couldn't find what they were looking for. So what we mainly look at right now, and the metric that we optimize for, is number of connections per 100 recommendations. So actually, less recommendations can be really good. If the user is able to get their connections that they were looking for very efficiently, that's amazing. So we look much more at the return on time. Like if somebody is only online in a virtual event for an hour, that's not necessarily a bad thing. Maybe they made like 10 very valuable connections and that's what they wanted, and they've achieved their goal. The attendee or the exhibitor or whoever it is happy and is like, okay, this is all that I needed. And you've done it in an hour. That's amazing. Like, organize an event like that every week. So it doesn't necessarily mean that simply because people are online for 8 hours straight, that actually you provided value. So you have to start with what is the ultimate value that you're looking to provide, and then how actually could you have the least amount of interactions to get people to that goal? Because that's the goal that you want to get to. If it takes a huge amount of time to get there, it's not necessarily beneficial at all.
So in a way, you're kind of saying, you can be as engagement, as interactive as you want, but if you're not getting to the kind of results that you want, it's just engagement. It's a bit like the vanity metrics on social media. You're getting likes and things and comments, but you're not actually getting the results. Xiaoyan, do you agree with that?
That's true.
Generally, I agree with the direction that ultimately is about the value. I do think there are some nuances. The most important thing for online events is that you can do this more often, more frequently, and people can engage with your content or with your brand or with your event throughout the year. So there is, in addition to the short-term transaction that you get directly from the event, a longer-term loyalty that you want people to join a community that you created because you already attract thousands of people to your event. Obviously you want to keep those people alive and keep them in your community because you're going to run more events throughout the year. So I do think there is an added value. Obviously, vanity metric doesn't mean anything, but there is an added value that's more than just a short-term transaction. And we have learned is that making connection with other people is the best way to retain someone in the long term. Because once you have the ties with the people, you want to keep in touch with people. So you want to keep in touch with the people that you meet from this event. As a result, you want to keep in touch with the event community that you create. And as a result, the next time you have something, whether it's an expo or is a webinar, people can engage longer. So I do think we need to kind of evaluate both short-term
and the event being sort of a one moment in time, right? And if you're really building a community, the event is one moment in time of simultaneous gathering that then you build a community to go further. Pierre, any comments?
Yeah, well, so the one thing that I think there's two things. First, with online events, you get 10x. I've been talking about it. You always get 10x the reach, 10x the audience, 10x the engagement. But it also means that if you've got like 1,000 people, people have different reasons to come to the event. It could be a customer who is like a customer for 20 years, and it could be just a casual user, or it could be like a prospect. And these people, they have different reasons to come. And it's not like everyone is coming to your event with, I want to make 100 connections, right? People are not like that. They're much more casual than this. They have, they come because they have 20 minutes free, right? My employees, they come every week to our all hands on our platform. I can tell you they're not coming with, I'm going to learn as much as I can about the company. They're just coming because we say we have our all hands, right? So you have different expectations, and most people come in with, they don't really have a goal, right? And I think I think platforms can foster this. I think organizers can also foster this. And I think what matters is not so much at an individual level, because there's so much on the spectrum between the super highly motivated, highly driven sponsors, perhaps one of our speakers, and then you have the casual sort of watchers that come in. I think what's important is that you look at it at an aggregate, and the best is really to think about explicit outcomes that you get, because otherwise it's all, as you said, vanity metrics. So if you think about response rates to your feedback form, or if it's a lead completion form, and these kinds of things that really tie back into the business.
Perfect. You may have noticed I've just launched 3 polls. On the bottom right-hand corner, there's 3 polls. I'd love to have the input of everybody watching. That'll also be an interesting kind of quick survey for everybody. Please add your votes. They're multiple choice. And the last one, you can choose as many options as you want. I want to jump into a few questions that we've had. We had a couple of questions come in. I think they're both good questions. Madeline Service, thank you for your question, says, any practical tips on how to increase engagement before, during, after the event? Pierre alluded to a ladder of engagement of sorts, from likes to comments. Maybe start with you, Pierre. Tips on engagement before, during, and after.
Okay, so there is, just general advice. There is social resistance to engagement, and the best thing is to show social proof that other people are engaged as well. So if you put 100 people next to me and they're all super engaged, I feel the pressure to be engaged. Now, that's a trick on how to influence other people to do that, but use it because it works. In other words, seed the engagement. And you can do this experiment. If you're not getting any questions to your session, just send one yourself. You can do this anonymous, and you know what? You're going to have 20 that follow.
So right? That's fake it until you make it, right? You kind of pretend.
I call it seeding. I call it seeding, but it always works. We do this with social feeds. Is the same thing. Always put like 1 or 2 posts on the social feed, and people feel like, wow, that's the norm, right? Because people look at the norm. I think that's one thing you can try. Very simple.
Yeah, great. Maybe let's do that. Just one tip each. Xiaoyan, any great tips from you?
Yeah, I think the key is to make sure that, so one thing is that the presentation we have found more than 10 minutes, people start getting sleepy. So you probably want to pause a little bit, at least for 10 minutes. Probably the longest will be 10 minutes. And then you stop by a question or poll. So we in our poll, we actually can see who is voting for what. So the speaker can tease the person who is voting for A or B a little bit. And we find that is critical in keeping people wanting to engage more. So basically giving them the attention they deserve and stop the presentation every 10 minutes to make it more engaging.
Good. And Tim, any great tips from you?
Yeah, we see actually that, I guess kind of similar, like breaking up the experiences. So, going from, a panel discussion to maybe some like more presentation style, but also kind of influencing roundtables and speed networking and having specific moments for just like networking breaks and stuff like that. Seeing a combination of different experiences. You always want to have multiple things going on. Well, people might not all want to do the same thing, but definitely kind of allocating and having a certain energy flow throughout the event can really help with driving engagement and giving people kind of moments in time to take certain actions. Can really help with continuous engagement for a longer period of time. And also, I don't think virtual events work well for like 8 hours, like do it like 3-4 hours and do it for 3 days. That's much better than doing something that is like full day program, right? It doesn't work. Or break it up into specific tracks, right? Do an artificial intelligence track and a marketing track in the afternoon. And that can really help people making sure that they are attending at the right moment in time.
Perfect. So I just want to take a quick look at our polls because I think that they say some interesting things. I asked first, are the virtual events you have attended engaging? And the majority, 58%, are about 50, so half and half. So we're not doing too bad, but there are a few that say only a few are engaging. Happily, none said that 0% of events were engaging, so we're not doing that terrible.
Well, they're here, so they must be. So.
Exactly. Who's to blame for events that are not engaging? 59% of people blame the event planner, so no pressure, event planners. It's all on you, mostly. So yeah, a little bit of pressure there. And then I asked, what kind of technology helped make virtual events engaging? A bit all over the place. Polling seems to be on top with 21%, but chat, Q&A also quite big. One-on-one video meetings are quite low. I guess that's a little bit off the script, but I think it's kind of an interesting thing. So I wanted to also kind of turn around and ask you a double question, which is, why do you think it is that people are so disengaged? And what do your platforms offer that counter that? What is it? What are like the key features in your platform that you think can really help get people engaged? And maybe if you think, why is it that people are so disengaged online? I'll start with Pierre this time.
All right, I'll start again by disagreeing. I don't think people are disengaged. I think people are overestimating how much they were engaged in person. And actually, they had no single data point to show that they were engaged, by the way.
I just want to actually mention that I love the topic you covered earlier, which I think is worth a whole session in itself, which is how casual people attend virtual events. It's sort of like, oh, there's a half an hour virtual event in my calendar. I'm just going to jump in and maybe do my emails while I do it, and then I'm going to do something else. So I totally see where you're coming from.
But it's just, I think that it pollutes a little bit the sample, right? And so of course there's more people and they have different quality of people, but still, having done in-person event a lot, it's not because you lock people in a room that you can say they're engaged. Right. And now we actually have the data, and we can tell you, to Sheldon's point, like how long you watch the window, and the window focus time and all these things. And in person will never be able to show that. It's not bad, but I think from what I've seen, and the data shows from outcomes, that the outcomes are as good, if not better. So as far as I'm concerned, I don't agree with that statement. Now, as for the question, what are we doing on our platform? If that's the sales pitch, okay, we could go with all the features, et cetera, et cetera. I think there's one thing that triggers I would say the appetite for engagement is two things that I think we do quite well. One is to personalize how we present the opportunity for engaging. So personalization is key. People like to feel like they're special, they're different, right? The speaker doesn't want to have the same engagement opportunity as the lowly, perhaps, attendee. And personalization is one thing we do, I think, quite well. The other thing that we offer is all those different ways of breaking things over smaller chunks, right? So I think this has been mentioned as it seems to be a standard for a lot of people, but still, a lot of our clients come up and want to have those long 2-day sessions. And so the tools that we have really help them build that and actually rebuild this later with replays, with Simulive, with all these kind of things, and that's what we bring to the market.
Thank you, Pierre. I'm going to rush you just because I want to make sure we cover everybody. Xiaoyin, over to you. Maybe one feature that you think is really combating this.
Well, I guess first, so probably I wanted to show a little bit of a different point than Pierre. I do think that we have a different bar when it comes to online events. Offline events, there's no comparison. Online events, if it's boring, I'm going to TikTok, I'm going to Instagram right away. So I think the bar for engagement is much higher, and people are pretty engaged with TikTok. So I do think that the reason why they're not engaging is because the events are just not as interesting as some of the other platforms that people are using that they can pivot to. So that's one thing. So we need to really hit the TikTok bar for online events. In terms of some of the feature, the most important thing for us is to help people socialize with each other in a non-awkward way, that they don't feel like they're rejected. So we designed the cocktail party precisely for that way. It's very different from a physical cocktail party, because I hate the cocktail party where you hold a drink, you're trying to figure out who you want to talk to, and you feel judged by other people that they're not going to talk to you. So we kind of want to avoid that situation in our cocktail party online, that you will always get to talk to somebody, but really quickly, and then you can choose who you want to follow up with later. We find is that people are making around 10 to 12 connections per hour. Yeah.
Great. And Tim, your one feature, and you'll have to go onto the Run the World website to explore the cocktail party feature to learn more about that.
So we do something similar we call speed networking. So it's very similar to what Xiaoyin is saying. So I'm not going to talk about that because it's too similar. But I'll talk about.
Can you merge the two cocktail parties features together from the two platforms?
Who knows?
No.
I mean,
I think they have different flavor.
Depends on the quality of the drinks.
Type of cocktails, I guess. So the other thing that we do, which is quite a little bit different, which we do is called inbound leads. And actually it is extremely helpful for sponsors and exhibitors to drive much more engagement and results for them. So, we're seeing probably I think we're averaging about 85 leads per exhibitor right now. And so that is very, in terms of engagement, is really helping them to get a lot of engagement out of these events. So that's a pretty powerful functionality.
Excellent. I'm glad that we didn't get kicked out of the room because we're over time, and some platforms do kick you out automatically, which is not a feature I like, but I'm glad we haven't been kicked out. Xiaoyin, Pierre, Tim, thank you so much for joining. We could have done this for a lot longer, and I'm really interested in your different angles, but I do appreciate you joining us, and I hope the audience was engaged. We kept around 60 participants throughout, so I think that's pretty good. I didn't see a big drop off in numbers, so my kind of just looking from my eyes looks like we achieved pretty good. So thank you everybody for watching. We hope you got some tips and some food for thought for your next session. So all the best to you.